Hi. Welcome to a video nobody asked for, but one I think we need. We're going to talk about the state, about school, about defense, and yes, about the soul, because without it, none of this holds together. My name is Tomasz Zelinka, and what you'll see on the slides behind me is a proposal. Not a complaint, not another round of hating on politicians. A proposal. You don't have to agree with it. Just hear it out to the end, and then tell me in the comments where I'm wrong. Let's go. Quick map of where we're going, so you know if it's worth your next few minutes. First, the diagnosis. What doesn't fit in today's system, and why it isn't one person's fault. Then, the core problem. We're mixing two different systems at once. Then the president, the school, the army. Then the spiritual axis, because that's what holds the whole thing together. And finally, the proposal itself, the state council, the summoned senate, state defense, and the path of a law from idea to signature. 8 steps, from diagnosis to solution. Let's start with what we have today. On paper, it's a republic. In practice, it's a popularity contest. Decisions rest on the number of votes, not on whether the thing can be defended. Those are two completely different questions. Popularity has become a qualification. Someone famous from the internet can take the highest office faster than an expert who spent 30 years doing the work. A promise doesn't have to be calculable or payable. It just has to sound good. And responsibility? It dissolves. The majority decided, but nobody in particular is liable. The citizen votes once every 4 years, and in between has nowhere to bring a proposal. Try it. Seriously, try it and see. So, bureaucracy grows to handle what trust and a normal local office should have handled. This, to me, is the core of the whole problem. Democracy is a method of counting. The decision is the most popular option. The majority defines what is true. The scales are emotion and campaign budget, and 51% can cancel the rights of 49. Fast, but unstable. A republic is a method of understanding. The decision is the option that survives exclusion. Law and reason define what stands. The scales are argument and evidence. And rights sit outside the reach of a vote. Slower, but durable. And what do we actually have? A hybrid. A republic in name, a democracy in method. The law exists, but popularity bends it. The official behaves like a master, not a servant. The system obeys neither rule, and no one specific is to blame. Cicero put it simply, res publica, res populi, the public thing is the people's thing. So the question should never be what do the most people want, but what can be defended. Now the unpopular part. The office of president. One signature, one will, one mood, and the whole state follows it. 1971, the Nixon shock. One decision by one head removed the gold backing of money. Since then, value is only trust and debt. We are all still paying for it. The wars of recent decades were launched from one desk, not from public debate. And now add the internet. I call it democracy suicide on steroids. An influencer, a singer, an athlete, a rapper with reach can win the highest office without a single day of state practice. Because fame can't be examined, competence can. So the solution isn't a better president. The solution is no president, and responsibility spread across several signatures. Let's go to school. And right away, one thing that floored me. In Greece, the paidagogos was the slave who walked the child to school. A slave. We still use that word as a job title. Memorization is easy to measure, understanding is hard, so we measure memorization. A grade ranks children against each other. Debate ranks arguments against reality. That's the whole difference. The classroom is a box. Same age, same pace, same expected answer. The teacher stands above the pupil. Originally, he stood beside him as a lover of wisdom. And spirituality and metaphysics fell out of the curriculum entirely. What's left is technique without meaning. Yet a child learns most from books that caught them and from people who actually know. Third diagnosis: defense. We have 3 bodies instead of 1. Army, police, intelligence. They don't see each other. Information gets lost at the borders of departments. Competences overlap, and there's nobody to carry the blame. The order is used as pedagogy. Authority is trained as a habit, not as an exceptional tool. And whoever learns to obey without understanding will obey a bad order too. If a force defines itself by strength, it starts looking for an enemy. If it defines itself by protecting life, it starts looking for a solution. And truth is forbidden ground. The questions nobody officially handles get handled by ordinary people, and instead of being heard, they get mocked. And now the part most political videos skip. Without it, none of this works. The One is the source. From the One flows intellect. From intellect, the soul. From the soul, the world. Not by manufacture, by emanation. Like light from the sun, which is not diminished by giving. You see the same procession in numbers. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. The One, its image, their relation, their fruit. Reality is not a pile of separate things. It's one substance in different densities of light. What older physics called ether, today's language calls the dielectric field. And water and the body are a tuned antenna inside it. Why say this in a video about the state? Because if a society forgets the soul, it doesn't become neutral. It becomes indoctrinable. We are souls, and we cannot not be souls. We are what we know, and whoever knows himself is gnosis itself. All right, diagnosis done. Let's build. Picture a flower, or a cross, whichever you prefer to look at. 4 petals, and at the center the human being. Not a government, the human being. Top, the state council. Virtues, wisdom, spiritual guidance, the signature, and the responsibility. Left, the state school, to understand. Logic, the method of exclusion. Debate, metaphysics. Right, state defense, to act. Defend life, never attack, seek truth. Bottom, the workers, to create. Companies, cooperatives, craftsmen, artists, collections. And at the center, the citizen. Res publica. Here's the same thing in detail. And notice one thing. Every petal has a limit. Written out precisely, what it does and what it will never do. That limit isn't a weakness. That limit is exactly what turns an organ into a service instead of a power. The council doesn't educate. The school doesn't command. Defense doesn't sign laws. Workers aren't run from above. Leave this image on screen for a moment. It's worth it. First body, the state council. And this matters, not national, state. It isn't about a nation. It's about the level of humanity's thinking about itself. Composition, 5 to 15 former officials and 5 to 15 former state defenders. For Slovakia, 10 members in total is plenty. They're 2 poles, like a magnet. The experience of administration and the experience of protection. And debate balances them. It handles 2 things, the defense of the state and the protection of human rights. Precisely the 2 things that must never be put to a vote. The council signs the law. And by signing, it takes responsibility, so the author of the proposal is free, and the law is a public thing, not a personal one. No president. Never a single face. Always several signatures. and at the same time, spiritual guidance, the rise of society's spirit toward love and unity, not the administration of subjects. Second body. And here I changed my own proposal. The standing Senate is abolished. What remains is the option to summon it when there's a crisis. Think of it like a Sanhedrin. A few hundred elders and experienced people in one place for one question. Not a lifelong career on a permanent salary. A summoning. That removes the waiting queue, the campaigns, the factions, and the cost of a permanent parliament. And decisions are made by the method of exclusion. Out goes everything self-contradictory, unpayable, or rights-violating. What remains is the law. Popularity measures mood. Exclusion measures validity. And yes, without a president and without a standing parliament, that can go down. That's not a detail. You feel it in the shop every day. Third body. State defense. Army, police, and intelligence as one body with two poles. Training moves the more capable toward the military pole, the rest towards civil protection. One service, one record, one responsibility. Service counts as a whole. 20 years in state defense. A career isn't a department, it's a stage of life. Defense is only defense. The appetite to defend life, not to attack. Conflict is solved with information, logic, and knowledge before force. Part of it is what I call the quest for truth. Detective and verification work, including the questions ordinary people handle alone today and get ridiculed for. And no authoritarian training. Obedience isn't taught as a virtue. Light is taught. Information, logic, wisdom. Defense follows the law and serves people. It is nobody's instrument, least of all anyone who wants to be ahead. The solution for school. First, rename the role. Not the pedagogue, the slave who leads the child. The philosopher. A lover of wisdom who stands beside the pupil. Abolish grading and competition between children. What's measured is the precision of understanding, not the speed of memorizing. Logic, the method of exclusion and debate, run through every level. From an early age. Disobjectification, my favorite word. Learning early not to identify with your own opinion, because then an argument costs you nothing, and you don't have to shout through it. Craft and practice as a full subject. Carpenter, mechanic, growing food, art, and spirituality and metaphysics as a foundation, not an add-on. Learning doesn't end with a diploma. It never ends. The fourth pedal, what the state should never have done for people. Companies, cooperatives, craftsmen and artists solve what Parliament never solved. A proposal is filed at the district office or online. Local, no waiting queues. No extra bureaucracy. On the contrary, it removes an enormous amount of complication. The office doesn't administer people. It works with them, helps, connects, records, and can organize a collection. And a collection, crowdfunding. That's the natural solution. Voluntary, targeted, visible. Not charity. An allocation of trust. Money without backing is a false definition of value. And one more thing I'll say plainly. Generosity is a noble virtue. Greed is demonic. Fewer heads at the top means lower VAT and less bureaucracy at the bottom. And now the whole thing in motion. From one person's idea to a signed law. 1. The citizen has an idea. And crucially, he knows where to go. District office or an online filing. Alone, through a representative, or even as a party. More heads together. 2. The office processes it, verifies locally, completes it, connects it with those it concerns. No waiting queue. 3. Public debate. The proposal is defended in public. And in a crisis, a great assembly of elders can be summoned. 4. Exclusion. Out goes the contradictory, the unpayable, and the unlawful. What stands, remains. 5. The council signs. Debate between the two poles, then 10 signatures. And the council takes responsibility. And 6. The law is a public thing. The author is free. The law isn't his, it's ours. Res publica. Let me put it bluntly. Every change fixes one specific fault, not an ideology. Today, popularity decides, exclusion should decide. Today, one head at the top. It should be 10 signatures and responsibility. Today, a standing parliament and endless campaigns. It should be a Senate summoned only in crisis. Today, a split army, police and intelligence. It should be 1-2 poles state defense. Today, the pedagogue and the grade. It should be the philosopher and debate. That's it. 5 sentences. Here they are, side by side. Today and the proposal. The same principle in every field. Remove what doesn't stand and leave the measure to the law. Not because people are stupid. Quite the opposite. So that human judgment is measured by whether it survives the test, not by how loud it is. Pause it and read it line by line. And the ending. The state is not above us. The state is underfoot. It's the floor we stand on, not a ceiling pressing down. The citizen has a head and forms the state. The council signs and takes responsibility. The law rules, and power doesn't leave the people, not even after a vote. If even one thing in this video makes sense to you, pass it on. And if nothing does, write and tell me why. That's exactly the system I'm talking about. Debate, not voting. Lux et veritas. Light and truth. Thanks for watching to the end.